Creepiest things discovered in abandoned buildings. Are you brave enough to see the creepiest things found in faraway abandoned places? Do you think you'd be able to sleep all right after watching this spooky episode? This video is not for the weak or faint of heart. So we welcome you to our channel to get ready to be amazed by the creepiest things discovered in abandoned buildings. But before we mess with your sleep by watching this list, why not hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more amazing content? Number 16. Mummified remains. In 2010, two women were cleaning out their apartment building's abandoned basement when they made an utterly chilling discovery. After the women discovered a mysterious trunk in their building's basement, they opened up the trunk to discover a dusty bag. When they looked inside, it suddenly made their blood turn ice cold. The trunk bore the mummified remains of two newborn infants wrapped in newspapers from the 1930s. When police investigated, they discovered the trunk's eerie story. The owner was Janet M. Barry, who was no relation to J.M. Barrie, the author of Peter Pan, by the way. And the bodies found inside the trunk? They were her children. What could have happened? Why did Barry put her baby's remains in the trunk? Tragically, we'll never know. Barry lived to 97 years old and never told a soul about the occurrence. Number 15. Something in the window. A group of urban explorers drove down a long road when they stumbled across an old abandoned-looking house. Curiosity made them step inside the house, and they found graffiti and typical vandalism in that abandoned house. However, there was something bizarre about this house. Stapled to the walls of the house were teeny plastic bags, each holding a single coin. There were hundreds of plastic bags, all with different coins in each. The group found this a bit unusual and concluded that they didn't feel welcome in the house. Therefore, they left. But just as they were about to drive away, the camera person filmed the house and caught a figure staring back at them from the second-story window. Number 14. Canadian Gothic. In 2011, construction workers in an abandoned home in southern Ontario made a chilling confession. When they moved into the basement, they discovered what seemed to be a confined-style room with a jammed door and locks on the outside. It looked like it was particularly designed to keep somebody in. Something more mysterious was that the house had been empty since 2006, but the room was built only a few years before it was discovered. So far, nobody has come forward with any information about the ominous room. Number 13. Abandoned missile silo. A Reddit user decided to share his strange encounter while on a trip to an old abandoned missile silo in Colorado. As he and his friends toured the silo, the group came across a door that appeared to have blood in the doorway. Adding to the horror was that the blood was fresh, as if someone was inside the silo with the group. But that was impossible, as the silo had been abandoned for many years. The group followed the blood tracks for a while before realizing that whatever thing left the blood trails may not be human. And the group decided to turn around and head out of the silo as soon as possible and end the tour immediately. But what if it had not been an animal? Well, we'll never know. Number 12. Just leave it there. For those of you who love to mess around with the Ouija board, this one's for you. In 2016, a construction worker made a disturbingly creepy discovery. On a certain unusual day of work, he found a 100-year-old Ouija board concealed behind the heating vent in the basement. Even more bizarre, the worker mentioned that the Ouija board had been placed upside down. This is because some people think that whomever hid it did so to break contact and protect themselves. Number 11. Stranger in abandoned house. A group of urban explorers is searching for a nearby house that is thought to be abandoned. Upon entering the house, they notice that the house was vandalized and abandoned as expected. After examining the house for a bit, the person with the camera was filming up in the house's attic. A few seconds later, a dark figure walked in front of the door and led to the attic. The person holding the camera screamed, and the group of explorers quickly rushed out of the house. Many people say it must have been someone hiding inside the house, or could it have been a ghost haunting the deserted place? Number 10. Abandoned war bunker. Some urban explorers decided to share their findings with the world by documenting and uploading them to the internet. They found an old World War II bunker, but unlike other bunkers people had found, this one still had working electricity. The bunker was mostly ransacked, but it still had a bit of supply in there and a bunch of small treasures. The bunker was comparatively large and was entirely abandoned. The explorer commented that it might mean someone is living there because of the working lights, and they left soon thereafter. But the thought of someone living in a bunker belonging to the horrors and remains of war is creepy in its own right. Number 9. Abandoned Psychiatric Hospital. An abandoned building doesn't have to possess dolls to have that spooky vibe. Sometimes it's the indescribable haunting vibe of the objects left inside that leaves you wondering, what the hell happened in here? Take a look at this image of an abandoned building with what appears to be a gigantic clutter of barbed wire hanging from the ceiling, all tangled up in loops and reels. To make things even more disturbing, this photo was captured inside an abandoned psychiatric hospital in upstate New York. One can't help but think, what was the reason for all the barbed wire? An inhumane act to keep patients from misbehaving? Or maybe a patient's attempt to write out a message? We'll never know for sure. And those unanswered questions make it all the more frightening. Number 8. Abandoned and Demolished Mental Hospital. Here's an image with just the right blend of backstory and enigma to give us that spooky feeling when we look at it. The photo was taken in the West Park Hospital in Epsom, Surrey. It was one of a cluster of 5 psychiatric hospitals built to house the mentally ill citizens of London. It's now demolished. Word has it that almost 2,000 patients once occupied the mental hospital. But as the picture shows, it had been discarded for a long time before being demolished. It's creepy enough to imagine how the hospital's former patients must have been treated. But what's really disturbing is how an urban explorer reportedly found these fire extinguishers arranged in a pentagram form in the hospital's attic. We can only wonder why. Number 7. Underground Prison. In 2013, a man in Cleveland, Ohio, heard a disturbing sound. A woman next door was crying for help. The neighbor went over and discovered the worst-case scenario: a terrified woman screaming at a security door. This awful finding was the first step to putting away the nefarious criminal Ariel Castro and freeing Michelle Knight, Amanda Berry, and Gina De Jesus, who were held captive by him. Castro tricked these women into going into his basement, detained them, and used them as sex slaves. Between 2000 and 2004, Castro kidnapped and abused 3 women, with one of the survivors even giving birth in captivity. In 2013, the women finally escaped. 1 month into Castro's 1,000-plus year jail sentence, the Cleveland kidnapper committed suicide. Number 6. Secret Bunker. We usually think of subways as all about crowds and movement. But have you ever stopped to wonder what a subway tube would look like after it had been abandoned and unused for years? This might be an unusual question, so we wouldn't be surprised if the answer was no. But for some people, the answer is yes. And in fact, they want to know the answer so much that they go exploring those abandoned tunnels. This picture, taken by a group of people exploring an old train tunnel in Rochester, New York, gives us a pretty unsettling idea of what might be down there. Is it time to call the Ghostbusters yet? Number 5. Pain and Horrors. Pripyat, a ghost city in northern Ukraine, which was the victim of the Chernobyl disaster, had many abandoned kindergartens. This is a picture from a kindergarten called Zolotoy Kluchik, or Golden Key. Just the thought of a kindergarten so near the Chernobyl nuclear disaster is both heartbreaking and chilling. There's something tragic about the idea of the innocent children who once played and learned in this building being flashed by radiation and probably getting sick and dying from it. But the creepy factor in this photo is increased by the presence of a plastic doll with gray hair, naked with a gas mask, thrown out among what appears to be the rusted remains of beds. It may have been brought there by a visitor trying to set up an unforgettable photo years after the incident, but it still gives us the shivers. Number 4. Abandoned Doll Factory. If you think about it, dolls are one of the creepiest things you can find in an abandoned building. Why? Many times, they look so close to being human. Sometimes it feels that if you stare a bit longer, they'll come to life and start talking. If you got the chills from the previous picture featuring dolls, this picture is sure to absolutely freak you out. Captured at an abandoned doll factory at an undisclosed location in Valencia, Spain, the image shows what looks like an assembly line with the bodiless heads of dolls or mannequins still neatly lined up in a row. Some have a blank stare. Some look like they're grimacing, and, freakiest of all, Some have the slightest hint of a smile on their faces. Regardless of the facial expression, these dolls' heads have us scared. Number 3. The Creepy Museum. Is it just us, or do most museums give off the spooky feeling, a little on the unsettling side? Perhaps it's the relatively large space with usually few people clanking around inside it, or the calm atmosphere, or the presence of objects and artifacts from years ago, or even decades or centuries ago. But even if you don't feel that way about museums overall, you'll probably find something at least a little creepy about this museum. An anonymous urban explorer and photographer entered this abandoned wax museum. Yes, wax museum, which had life-size figures like this one standing, albeit distorted by the passage of time. It almost feels like looking at a human being who could come to life any minute. Definitely a disturbing thought. Number 2. Discovered upon inspection. In 2008, an unconscious young woman was admitted to the hospital. Her kidney was about to fail and her life was in danger. But doctors had something more to worry about than the patient's declining health. The man who brought her in had a bizarre story to tell. He wasn't related to her as far as anyone could tell. He just showed up with a letter from her mom saying he had to bring the young woman to the hospital. And why did the young lady show symptoms of malnutrition, and why were her teeth decaying? The doctor's decision to ask questions was the right one. Little did they know, the man bringing the woman to the hospital was the most notorious criminal Austria would ever witness, Josef Fritzl. Fritzl built a chamber beneath the home he shared with his wife. After getting his teenage daughter Elizabeth to help him place the door, he drugged her and moved her body inside the basement. She wouldn't see daylight for 24 years. Fritzl committed extremely horrific crimes in the bunker, sexually assaulting and impregnating his own daughter multiple times. Fritzl and his ignorant wife adopted 3 of the children upstairs. He claimed they were orphans who just showed up on their doorstep, while others were kept downstairs with Elizabeth. When one of the bunker children, Kirsten, fell seriously ill and was taken to the hospital, Fritzl's lies finally unraveled, and the world came to know about the depths of his depravity. Number 1. The Hanging Doll. If we were ever to gather enough courage to walk into an abandoned school building, we would expect to see many things inside it. Papers scattered all about, the remains of homework and exams that students once agonized over long, long ago. We might even anticipate seeing an old science project or two, or maybe sports trophies rusting away in some closet. However, what's in this photo from an actual abandoned school is definitely not what we'd expect to see. A mannequin hanging from the ceiling by a rope, with a ladder lying on the ground beneath it. Nope, it's not what we'd expect at all. Well, that's enough spookiness for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button and comment down below on the one you found the most creepy of them all. And don't forget to watch our other videos and subscribe to our channel. Until the next video, stay curious and goodbye.